Hi, and welcome to another recording of a long play game. And this is where I explain all my thoughts in detail. If you're interested to know when a stream is, I'll be streaming tonight and some other things you might be, intrigued in. Then do stay tuned. I've got some announcements at the end. Okay, so I'm going to stick with my killer repertoire, and generally against e6. Well, I could go for a French now, but I'm just going to stick with what I recommended my killer d4 DVD. Now, c4 was also possible after e6. e4 would have got into a French defence. Could have played that as well. But I'm going to go for a normal Queen's Gambit now we have, where I go c4, and this is a standard position. If you want to learn more about this, buy the Killer D4 DVD. Okay, now my opponent's taken here. That's slightly peculiar to do that at this early stage. I don't often mind my opponent doing such a move because it gives me normally this good centre. Even if he can hold on to this pawn, I often like this kind of gambity position. And now we've actually transposed, again, I cover this in the Killer D4 into what's called the Vienna opening, an opening which can be very exciting, especially if he plays knight to f6 here, which is the main line Vienna. And all I'm trying to do here is play simple moves. I'm not panicking about a pawn. A lot of lower rated players will panic when they lose a pawn. This is one thing I certainly don't do myself. Don't worry about losing a pawn as long as you continue with your other ideas. My other ideas here is just to simply hold on to my centre, and later on to try and prove that my opponent's king might be quite weak. Now, what should I be doing here? Well, okay, bishop g5 could be quite annoying. Let's go bishop g5, because if he goes f6, I've forced my opponent to play an uncomfortable pawn move around his king. So this bishop g5 move looks very sensible, develops a piece as well. If he moves his knight to f6, he's got to worry about e5. If he moves his knight to e7, well, that's not a great square for his knight. And now, how do we continue here? Okay, well, my opponent, again, I'm trying to think what my opponent's going to do. He's going to try to go here, threaten this pawn. So I'm just going to get ready for that idea by defending that pawn. And this keeps things flexible, because I may even decide to castle queenside and then try to go for a quick d5. And I think now this plan gets a lot more tempting because he's wasting quite some time. So I'm going to do this for better or worse. I'm trying to use my development advantage, and I want to open up the position and use my central pawn. So it's getting quite tactical. And now I'm thinking about the move d5 here to try to bring my pieces into the game. This is looking very interesting now. His king is not castled still. If he castles kingside, I can start throwing Harry up the board and aim for h7. So he's trying to kick my bishop away. Now, taking his knight seems to get rid of that bad piece, so I don't want to do that. I'm just going to keep the pin. I really don't mind if he goes g5, because then he's moved his kings too far around his kingside. He won't be able to castle over there in that position. So he's castled instead. And now there's a number of things here. I mean, I'm a natural attacking player. What should I be thinking here? Well, I got d5, as we discussed, opening it up. But now that he's played h6, I'm looking at that area of the board. And I'm just going to go for a move. As we're opposite side castling, it's all about who checkmates first. The extra pawn he's got is irrelevant. So I'm going to go g4. I'm going to throw Gary up because I want to play g5. And I want to open up lines against his king. Very double-edged position here. He's got a nice nice queenside mass he can try to use to attack me. That's why it's all about speed here. Certain positions, not like some of the other videos I've done, this is taking a lot different angle, this one. It's a sharper opening, so you've got to play in a sharper manner. You don't have time to mess about with slow manoeuvring. You've castled on opposite sides. I've gambited a pawn. When you play like this, you need to play with some urgency. There's no time to play a slow move like bishop e2. Yes, bishop e2 would develop a piece, but so what? What is my bishop doing on e2? I have to play quickly, and the move g4 at least comes up with some ideas of playing g5 and opening up his king. I've just noted, though, if I go g5, does he have the move knight g6? Is that going to be an annoying way to try and hold up the opening of his position? Because if I take there, he has knight takes h4. So that's an annoying move. Maybe I should go rook g1 first, because then I might have some gambit where I can give up my bishop and bring my rook down to g7. I mean, my rook is gonna want to go to g1 anyway, so why don't I play that one first? Because g5, knight g6 seems like an annoying move. I might as well keep the pin on his knight, depending what he plays, of course. If I was my opponent, what would I do? Well, if I was him, he can't really go wrong with a move like bishop to b7. He could also try bringing his pieces out quickly. But I think it's easier for me to play this position because I have the centre, and when you control the centre, generally your position is easier to play than your opponent's, and this means I have more moves like d5 available here. Okay, so he's played this normal move, and if he takes here, I can take with a pawn, so I'm not worried about this square yet. So I'm going to go rook g1 as I planned. I'm just slowly, bit by bit, getting ready to play this g5 move. I've also got d5 as an option always. I kind of like d5 because my rook is lined up against his queen. If he ever takes twice on d5, wins another pawn, he's putting himself in a lot of strategic and tactical problems. So I'm liking a combination of these two moves. d5 first, and then maybe g5. Let's have a look at this g5 move. I should be calculating. If I go g5, knight g6 is the only move I'm worried about. I take on h6. Wow, that's a very committal move he's played. You know, moving a pawn like that in front of his king is so committal. Such a committal move. Now, I could play logically with bishop here. Then he will go knight g6. And then I can try and play a move like d5. Should be great play. Or I could sacrifice on g5. Now, the first thing you should do in positions like this is look at the sharpest move. So I must look at sacrificing here. Now, if I take with a bishop, I get knight takes g5 in at the end. And I'm threatening something like e5 and queen h7 mate. But when my knight gets to g5, so bishop takes, pawn takes, knight takes, he can go knight g6. It blocks things up. And if I don't see a good move, which I can't, I'm going to now eliminate bishop takes. I think it's too slow. My attack is too slow there. So we're not going to look at that anymore. I don't believe it because after I take with the bishop first, he plays knight takes, knight g6. He'd be threatening queen takes my knight with check, and my attack's too slow. I've given up a whole piece. Now, knight takes g5, pawn takes, bishop takes. Looks more tempting because I keep my pin. But I don't really have any pieces attacking him then, do I? I mean, I only have this pin on his knight. Some vague attacking chances, but I don't believe it. So, okay, so I didn't believe the sacrifices worked then. So I'm going to go for this third option. And now I keep my pieces now. I want to play h4. If he lets me play h4, I'm going to be very, very happy. If I can go h4 and open up lines against his king, I'll be very happy. That's why I'm assuming he will go knight here to try to stop this move. If he goes knight there, he's moving a piece away from controlling this square, d5. So if he moves his knight to g6, it seems to be logical sense then to try to open up a second front in the centre by playing the move d5. So that's what I'm going to be seriously considering. Knight here, d5. It's kind of a pity this bishop's not playing a part, but if you think about my opponent's pieces, they're not really playing a part either. The extra pawn, really totally irrelevant in positions where you're slugging at each other, and just getting to your opponent's king is key. And that is positions where you castled on opposite sides of the board. It doesn't matter about these puny pawns. Okay, he's found the right move. Now, d5 seems so natural. Other ideas, though, because I do have ideas with knight at this square as well. Trying to get rid of this knight which is a good defender of his king. Because then if he takes, maybe I even take with a pawn. And that will open up my rook. And I really want to get h4 in as well. So let me just have a think about this. I'm thinking, I really want to play h4, but I don't think I can play it because he simply takes. It doesn't work here. I think I really like this move d5. I'm going to play d5. This just seems naturally right because I'm attacking. I want to get my rook in the game against his queen. It also gives me the d4 square for my knight, which would love to jump into f5 later on, especially if he ever moves his e6 pawn. You know, imagine that knight coming into the f5 square. The problem with his g5 move, it's a very interesting idea. It might have been a good move even. It is that when you move a pawn, you create weaknesses. And if you move a pawn around your king, later on, it's going to be very airy. It might not be clear to see where those weaknesses are at the moment, but later on, it's going to be airy. By the way, do you like the band behind me? I've always want to be a bit of a rock star, so I thought I'd just bask in the glory of being on stage for a moment. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm trying out new backdrops. And do stay tuned. Just while we wait for this, I'm going to flick in a little thing now. There's a stream tonight. This is on Tuesday. It's the first Tuesday of the month. I'll give more details of that later on. And also, I've started to do a new podcast. There's a link there. I'll tell you about this, the Full English Breakfast. I'm starting to be part of a team there. I'll tell you about that later on. All free stuff you might be interested in downloading, but I'll tell you about that at the end. Okay, so my opponent from Ukraine. This game could get me over the 2,000 mark. Still a long way to go to get to 2,500. This is going to take quite some time. Could go on for ages, this one. I'd like to thank you all for your support, of these videos. All the positive comments has been great, hence why I'm doing more of them. If you like the old time limit, though, don't worry, because, we are going to come back to that. For example, I'm doing that later on with the title Tuesday. I like a bit of blitz. I can't stay away from it too long. So my opponent's developed his last piece because he doesn't want to move this pawn and give away the f5 square. Now, if I take here, he will take here. And that opens up a lot of pieces of both of us. But again, releasing the tension too soon is something I always try to avoid doing if I can. I don't like releasing the tension unless I have to. Now, the most natural move seems to me to be to move my knight to a better square. And that would increase targeting this one here. And also gives me opportunities later to move my knight here and knight there. So knight d4 seems like the most natural continuation, and I don't think I'm going to think about many other moves for much longer here, because there's no point thinking about this bishop. It's waste of time moving that. I can't open him up with h4. I don't want to release the tension by taking because that frees up his bishop. So let's move this knight in. And again, another thing you should do in sharp positions, at least try to keep creating threats. And by playing this one here, I do create a threat of taking the pawn. And I would actually think another, maybe very even stronger threat is knight c6. That might win a piece if I can play that move. Now, if my opponent plays queen e7, I was hoping I could then grab this very cheeky pawn on c7. But I think this is the kind of thing my opponent should do. He shouldn't be worried about that pawn. I'll probably grab it anyway. If he does move the queen there. But I think you should really, in these types of positions, you shouldn't worry about that. In actual fact, I'm not sure if I would grab that because it might help him get a rook there. I mean, here, if he plays a passive move like queen c8, I think he wants to get out the pin. Well, he can't do that because of the e6 pawn. I think he has to play queen off my rook's line, something like queen e7. This has to be played. One of the issues with moving his queen here, I guess, from his point of view, is that if he ever takes here, when I go knight to f5, his queen is... Oh, that's a much better square. Okay, he's found a better square. He's moved his queen to a better square there. Okay, now, that's much better, controls more dart squares. Now, do I have tactic here with pawn here, followed by knight to e4? This is the first thing I'm thinking, trying to take advantage of his queen there. Pawn here, knight takes, knight e4. Is that helping me at all? Don't think so. He's got a very nice control over this square, so that doesn't help me. Now knight here doesn't really seem to get anywhere. He just takes it and puts his knight into this square, so that would certainly not help my position. He's done a good job of defending these dart squares, so maybe here I have to grab on c7. At least then I have ideas of d6. Other things going on here. I really want to sack a pawn with this one, but I can't get it to work. Now, if I take here first, takes, then go e5. Is that any tactics there? Knight takes, bishop takes, knight takes. Is that working out for me, that one? No, I can't see that one working either. It's just, I have to just have a think here. Takes, takes. Any knight jumps there? Knight here, pawn takes, rook takes here. Quite interesting, but I don't believe it. My bishop's not great. Okay, I'm gonna start by taking this one because it gives me options of playing d6, and it is a pawn, but that was a very good move my opponent played there. For some reason I only considered his queen going to the more passive e7 square, but he's moved it to a much more dynamic square. The pawn I've taken is pretty irrelevant, and now it's just a very unclear position. Very, very unclear. The important thing is done, my opponent, is control a number of his squares because he's left his pawn here, which stops my knight from jumping in. Okay, so bishop here. Now pawn here becomes more attractive, but he's always got a queen check then. So I can't do that. And he's trying to force my knight away. Now, if I dive into c6 now, is that going to help? Diving into c6? Don't think so. Now I could take here now and then play some knight move like knight f5. That's very interesting. That looks like a much better way to play. And if he takes, my rook comes into d7. Things okay. I'm going to go for this one now. I have to, I'm in a bit of a predicament. I don't want to go knight c6 because he simply gets rid of my knight and then goes knight e5. He's controlling it. I think it's now time to take here, and then on my next move try to use a tactical resource to get my rook into the position. So pawn takes, knight f5, and I haven't calculated this deeply. I'm just trying to open things up to the best I can, and that looks like the right way to play here. Now if he takes on d4, I take on d7. As far as I can see, that should be okay. My pawn will become very strong. So pawn takes e6 is a key move. Now, do I have anything better than playing knight f5? I think it has to be knight f5. I think I've got to play knight f5. But I think my opponent's concept has been very clever in this game. He's played a very clever concept. This g5, which I was actually suspect of, has proven to be a good way to stop me opening up lines. That's why I've decided to play in the centre. So he hasn't gone for that option. He hasn't taken here. Instead, he's gone for this more complex move. Now, what options do I have? Bishop takes here, knight takes. That's not helping. My piece could be looking a bit stranded here. Other ideas. Bishop d6. Bishop d6. Well, don't like that either. Defending very well. If I sack this knight, is there anything there? So h4 takes here. Is that any compensation? I've got a little bit of compensation there. I'm quite liking that one as a punt. The way to go. Because I don't want to move this knight. He's just going to come down here. I mean, I could play knight d4, but it's a bit passive. Might not be. I mean, I don't want to go back if I can. If my knight moves anywhere else, he takes on f2. So the sacrifice with h4 is looking like one of my better options. Now bishop here is the kind of move I want to play, but then he just takes here, doesn't he? So h4 is a risky move. Maybe a move I should be playing. Is it really going to be enough compensation though? I don't think so. With this bishop stopping me going f4 as well. Any other ideas? Well, knight to d5 takes. Can I sack a piece like that? Pawn takes d5 there. Is that that anything? I've got it keeps my knight on this square. Ideas are going d6 then. Interesting compensation. Not sure well, I've got a very strong knight there. That's an interesting, well, maybe a more interesting way of doing it, knight d5. And what about less, should we say, less crazy options? Knight d4. No, I don't like knight d4. I don't like moving my knight. He moves here. I'm going to try this one. We're going to give this one a go. We're just going to sack a knight just to keep my knight on f5. Okay, I get one pawn for it. I don't know if one pawn is enough according to computers, but we've got to remember the computers are not always right. Okay, so he hasn't actually, he's decided not to do that. Actually, rather than taking with a pawn, leaving my knight here, he's taken with a piece, which may be a better option, but I'm not sure why he's slowed down now. I get so concerned that my opponents are cheating now, because why would you slow down in this position? Why did he take so long to take that piece there? I really don't understand that. That move. He seems to be playing very well. Okay, I'm going to play on, but I think he, his move's coming again. Strange that he took so long there. Okay, so d6, and well, I mean, it's not enough compensation for the piece, but we've still got some messy chances here. My bishop coming in to d5 as my next plan here, something like that. Bishop g2, bishop d5 looks like something I can try to do to generate some play, but I don't believe this position for me anymore. It's not, I'm maybe playing on some tricks here. If I was playing the computer would get through this position quite securely. Okay, so well, let's keep going. Knight d4 would be an amazing maneuver that my opponent could come up with there. Knight f3 to d4. Should I be thinking about sacking a second piece by taking on c4 in this position to gain some activity? Should I be considering that one? Might not be so crazy. Bishop takes here, and then my queen can come in. I'm relying on my pawn. Again, I don't fully believe that one. What else has my opponent got to play with here? Okay, well, he's simply taking here, holding on to this knight. And now this sacrifice, I don't believe. Let's grab the pawn on g4. Play this one. Some dreams of getting my queen into g6 here. This is one thing I can dream of doing. Very greedy move there. Extremely greedy. How many people would take a pawn on h2? I don't know. I don't know many people who would do that. It just seems bizarre to do that when you're so much material up. Okay. Well, I'm going to move here, trying to get my rook into e7 now. But yeah, this has certainly gone wrong. I mean, my one, I need to try and create some tricks. My queen coming in, my rook coming in this position. This is my hope. And when you think your position's a little bit suspect, the best thing to do is to complicate things as much as possible. And well, that's something I've clearly been doing all the way through this game, and there's no point backing down now. On the other hand, for my opponent, one thing he should be doing is aiming to exchange pieces off, maybe starting with knight takes f1 here. Just make some exchanges, make it a bit easier, exchanging pieces off. But I have to have a look earlier on where things turned a little bit here. His g5 move seemed like a good move in the end, and maybe I must have played, I had to play something a bit more dynamic. Maybe even my d5 move was wrong in the end because I lost control of dark squares. When I played this d5, I lost, this square here. So my opponent is playing, well, what looks like the most obvious moves, exchanging things off. And this is what you need to do when you are up. And actually, my position is pretty hopeless here. So I think we're going to have to resign this one. And look where I went wrong. 24 moves. Is there any point playing on? Not much point. I mean, I'll try a little bit. We go f4. Some hope of creating a little bit of chaos here. But my opponent's played very well. He's played a very good game. He's played all the sensible moves. Grabbing pawns when he can. And now he's grabbing another pawn on f4. And is there any way I can break through his position? I don't think so. So let's have a look. Any last ditch hope here I can do after he takes on f4? Well, it's a whole piece, isn't it? And we will have a look where I went wrong after this game. And probably the simplest move here is queen f5. If he goes queen f5, well, that is resignable because he's swapping queens off. And that is certainly a move that every human would play. And he's done it. So he's played queen f5. He's got the queens off the board. And there's really no hope here. Okay, well, I'm going to resign that one. And again, another slight error on my way to getting to my goal. Now, what went wrong there? Well, I'll see if he wants to rematch. The opening's very interesting. And we've got this dynamic position. Now, maybe here I should... Well, I think rook g1 is okay. He came up with this interesting idea going knight g6. And I'm now thinking d5 wasn't right because I'd lose control of the dart square, especially this square. I'm thinking I had to come up with another idea here. Maybe something along the lines of knight to e5. Because what happened in the game, we can see I went d5 and I just lost control of this very important square and I can't get my pieces coordinating well enough. And actually after this move, I think I'm worse here. So I lost control of a square. What should I have done here? Well, I'm now thinking, you know, the one move I will have to play is h4, but maybe I should be playing something along the lines of knight e5. This keeps my pawns controlling more squares. When I was thinking knight takes and now pawn takes, and this way it stops his knight coming into my position. You know, this knight can't get active now. And later on I can still hope, well, he should go queen e7 and now I should go f4. This is the way I should play it. This is the break I need. I was so fixated on Harry 4 I forgot about f4, and this is the kind of thing I should be doing to take advantage of this. So I actually think my main mistake in this game was playing this d5 move, because I think pawn moves, I said, lost control of squares, and I lost control of this very big e5 square then. I think he was always better after that, and he seemed to play pretty perfectly then. I really hope he's not another cheat. He may just played a good game. I mean, knight e5 here would have been a much better way to play. It's my stupidity. I didn't do anything particularly wrong in the game, as we saw. I didn't do anything crazy. I drifted in a bad position. I tried something a bit desperate. These things happen when you play these crazy positions. But if I go knight e5 here, this would have been a much better way, because if I can take his knight, opening his king up, and if I get this kind of position, I have the f4 break and I start to chip away here, and his knight doesn't have its way into a very important square. So okay, so as long as we learn from our losses, then that's important. Another bit of a downhill slope there on my way to 2500. This is going to take a bloody long time. I'll post this video anyway. You know, not very impressive play by me. Not a good day of play. These things do happen, so I apologise for that, but at least you get to see some of my thoughts there and at least see where I went wrong. Now, the things I did want to say, I'm going to do this stream tonight, which is going to be the Title Tuesday stream, so there are the details for that. I would also like to say, please, if you want to support me, go over to the Facebook page here, which is the Full English Breakfast, the FEB, and this is a new free podcast that I'm doing with, well, not me, it's mainly a guy called Macaulay and a guy called Lawrence Trent, who I'm sure you know, and these guys have been doing the Full English Breakfast for ages. They've invited me in to help them out and be part of the team, which I'm really honoured to be. And it's a lot of fun. We talk about chess, but we're really doing a lot of controversial things that we wouldn't talk about normally. You can download it to your iPhone so you can listen to it on the go, on the train. Here is their link, their website page. But if you search for Full English Breakfast upon, you know, in the internet, you'll see that it's all free. You can download these shows for free. They're very well edited by Macaulay, and there's a lot of controversy in there, and hopefully there'll be quite some fun there. And it's all free to listen to, so that's a good way to support another thing that I'm trying to do, free thing there. So okay, but do tune in to my stream later on. Another loss. I'm gonna have to bunk up my act, aren't I, a bit more with the way I'm playing at the moment. This is pretty poor, doing these couple of losses Ah, dear. Struggling around the 1900 mark, but okay, we all have dips. I need to get a good roll going. Hopefully I will in future games. Thank you for watching this video.